Hare Krishna. You can write down in the chat box if you had such kind of thought. Okay, Santoshi writes yes. Okay, Vidya has written yes. And no one else? Anyone else? Yes, wish I could time travel and correct my mistakes, right? And how many of you had been successful in doing that? Where you had any success in doing that? Probably not. Right, even I think sometimes if I can go back to my those days wherein I can rectify that one mistake for which I felt guilty about, or some mistake which I wanted to atone for, and I can change that and I can get a second chance, right? But then more or less I don't I we do not have that opportunity to live the same day again in our life, right? We do not have this opportunity to live the same moment. For to speak about the day, we do not have this opportunity to live the same moment again, the same second again, right? What I did in the morning, I cannot go back and repeat it again, right? Sometimes the words that come out from our mouth and which hurts the other person, we regret so much that why did I speak that, right? I somehow, if I can go back and I can change my words, but more or less I do not get that second chance. By the time I try to rectify, I think everything would have been spoiled, right? So life doesn't give us second chances, right? But then today it's going to be something we are going to discuss today, which will tell you that how life had given a second chance to a person in the history, like in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the scriptures. Can you guess? Can you guess? Can anyone guess? It's a very famous story, famous pastime, and wherein life gives second chance to a person. Like,
Jamil.
haha, someone said, I could hear Kesri Priya, or someone who said the answer. Jamal, great.
Ajamala Mataji.
Yes, yes, great. Ajamila, right? So, so Ajamila had got this chance to live his life again, though he was about to die, right? I know it's famous, like many of you know it, but then let's see from a little closer lenses that how we can learn from his life. Actually, if you see, he got a second chance. But then, if you all know about his story, some of you, if you do not know, also don't worry, I'll be going through it. But then, how many of us get the chance? He got it, but then we do not get it. So, let's see what all we can learn from his life, right? And then apply it in our life, because it's very, very important. It's very, very important. Okay, so now today's whatever we will discuss, I have divided into three sections. Okay, so the first section is falling in the dark well. I do not have a PPT. If you have notes, to please write it down. You cannot take a screenshot, but then just hear it attentively and you can note it down. And I would prefer if everyone is switching on their camera so that I understand, that whether you are really listening or is it boring or you're interesting. I feel so enthusiastic to see all of you and speak, right? So first thing we are going to discuss is falling in the dark well, the first section. The second section is that when a person falls in the dark well, who comes to rescue? So the second section is about devotees coming for rescue. And the third section is ultimate shelter, the holy names. Okay, so coming to the first section, falling in the dark well. So this is the story of Ajamila. Ajamila used to stay in a small village called as the Kanya Kubja. the small town, Kanyakubja, he used to stay. And then he was a very pious Brahmin. He was very obedient to his parents. He was having a child as well as a very good wife from a very pious background, from a Brahmana family. He had married a wife, very beautiful wife he had. He was living his life very happily. He was in association of the devotees. He was performing such nice sacrifices and doing his Brahmanical activities very nicely, unlike the so-called Brahmins of this now, the present Kali Yuga, what is going on, like they do not follow the standards. But then Ajamila was a person who was following the Brahminical standards very, very nicely. So one fine day, listening to his father, being an obedient father, he went to the forest to get some fruits, roots, and flowers for the lordships, for the paraphernalia, for the worship of the Lord. So what happened? Just give me 1 minute. Yeah. So what happened? So he went there, but then he noticed a Shudra. He noticed a Shudra means, I mean to say that a person who was not following the Brahminical standards properly. Like he was a Shudra, he was not even a Brahmin, like he was doing all the abominable activities. So what he was doing is that he was embracing a prostitute, and he was drunk. Both of them were drunk, and so they were engaged, shamelessly kissing each other. And when when the Ajamila sees the prostitute, the lusty desires within him, it he starts generating all those lusty desires. And he was thinking that, how he can enjoy that prostitute. And slowly he started contemplating on that particular prostitute. And after a few days, he brought that prostitute to his home. And he not only brought the prostitute to his home, he removed his father, mother, his son, his pious wife, everyone. He removed everyone from that home, and he started doing all those abominable things under the influence of the prostitute. Like he started killing, he started hunting, and all he acquired money by two methods, either be it pious or impious. He just wanted to acquire so that he is able to satisfy that prostitute. And I think he begot 10 children from that prostitute, right? And that's how he was engaged in his life. So one thing, so now we'll give a pause, right, from this section of his life. What we are understanding, what happens to him? Falling in the dark well, right? So one example what Prabhupada gives is that, now you see the worm, silkworm. It is when it is a caterpillar stage, with his own saliva it makes the cocoon, and within that cocoon it's trapped, and then it is himself, it is unable to come out of that cocoon, right? So similarly, this Ajamila, he was entrapped with all those sinful activities which he was performing. He was unable to come out. Slowly he was going inside the dark well. He did one sinful activity under the influence of a prostitute, under the association of a prostitute, and then he was satisfying, just to satisfy her. He was continuously doing the sinful activities, right? And which led him to go inside the dark well of all the like he was in a dark well. When you fall inside the dark well, you just can't see anything. You just see that, yes, I'm in the dark well. You just So he was like that. You know he was completely drenched in the uh, all those sinful activities. So one thing which we see, which reminds me here by seeing his this section of his life, is that it reminds me of a verse in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that is Dhyayato Vishaya Pumsha Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kamat Krodho Abhijayate. So that means, like, when we start contemplating on the sense objects. So what he did is that he was first contemplating on that prostitute. He contemplated the entire scene which he saw in the forest. And then slowly with his contemplation, the lusty desires increased in his heart. And in this lusty desires, he what happened is that when he could not get, like in Bhagavad Gita it said, once your lusty desires are not fulfilled, you become angry, right? So he wanted to fulfill his lusty desire, so he brought that lady inside his home. But then after that, what happened? The next verse in Bhagavad Gita, which tells after this dhyato vishaya pumsha, is that ध्यातो विषया पुंसा संगस्तेषुपजायते संगत संजायते कामा कामत कामत क्रोधो अभिजायते. So क्रोधात भवति सम्मोहा, सम्मोहात स्मृति भ्रंशात. I'm sorry if I am doing any mistake in pronunciation. So what is the meaning of that particular verse is that once you get become angry, after your anger, what happens is that your knowledge becomes bewildered. Like you do not have any proper knowledge. Like you do not, your intelligence get bewildered. Your intelligence is covered by the illusion, right? So what happened to Ajamila is that after he was influenced by the lusty desires, he slowly becomes so much, he was so much affected by the illusionary energy, that is nothing but Maya, that is one of the energy of Krishna. So he was so much in illusion that his intelligence was completely gone. And when his intelligence was gone, he eliminated, like he threw all his wife, everyone, he threw out of his house. And he slowly he went in the illusionary world with his wife, with his so-called wife, that is that is this prostitute, right? So one thing which I learned from here is that now Ajamila had one scene he had seen, that too in the forest. People at those days, they used to go to forest to do those things. Now it's happening in front of us. We are seeing movies every day which shows this kind of characters, right? We see web series in next Netflix and all those things which shows only this thing, this lusty things. So one Ajamila, he got bewildered by seeing one scene. But for us, we are seeing it every single day. We are seeing it in the roads, how the young boys and girls, they embrace each other, they go in bikes and all. So these things are happening every time for us. So what does it show? We are so distracted. We are so distracted, and we make ourselves more distracted by seeing all those movies, by seeing all those web series, right? By coming in contact with, having association with those kind of friends who are nothing but they are lusty, right? So more we associate with them, more we see all these things, the more we are distracted, right? So this thing I'm telling you to make you aware that stop this distraction at the very first phase. Cut on this distraction. Otherwise, what will happen? You will start contemplating. And most of you, I feel like we are now 14 of us. I think we are seeking for spiritual life, right? We are gathered here so that we can progress in our spiritual life. If knowingly, if we start contemplating on all these things, and knowingly if we get distracted from our path, then how can we progress in our spiritual life? Our main intention, our main goal in this lifetime is to get the lotus feet of Krishna, Radha and Krishna, right? To actually, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells that the best thing which we can achieve in the devotional life is that to achieve the love of God, love of Sri Radha and Krishna. We, like how Ajamila, he loved everyone else, but then he forgot his duties for Radha and Krishna. So similarly, if we keep ourselves in the position of the Ajamila, what Ajamila was there, we will see that we closely resemble. We also have lusty desires in our heart. Lusty desires does not only means to have only the association of the opposite sex. It also means that to have desires which is not in favor of our devotional life, which is unfavorable to our devotional life. We have so many desires and we are running behind all those desires, keeping giving Krishna the side. Okay, okay, chanting maybe later. After I complete this, I will do chanting. And by that time, when we neglect chanting and we give our first preference to other things in our life, what happens? Chanting takes a back seat. And by night 10 p.m., we realize that did not complete our 10 rounds are pending. Maybe if someone is doing 16 rounds, I'm just telling, so maybe six completed or four completed or one completed or two completed, and we give preference to all those desires which come in our way, and we do not give the first preference to our devotional service. And what happens? Slowly, slowly, our interest goes off. By night 10 p.m., we realize so many, oh my God, so many pending rounds. So instead of doing chanting very happily, we feel that, oh my God, I'm dragging myself to chant. I'm dozing off. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this is how it happens, right? That's just because I give my preference to all those desires. But let's see what happens. What happened to Ajamila? So let's see what happened. If you would have given this one priority to Krishna, no, I have come here to pluck only the flowers. No matter if the world is surrounded by so many distraction, I know where I am going to. Where what is my goal? I have to serve Krishna. So I have come here to pluck flowers. So let me pluck and go. That's my business. Right? Since he did not had this one pointed Vyavasayatmika Buddhi in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells that this one pointed, one pointed, determined, in a very determined way, one pointed our concentration on Krishna. So that was not there with Ajamila. And the same thing is with us also. If we slowly we contemplate on ourselves, the same thing is with us. Okay, so this was the first section, and we had two learning points. So stop distraction in the very first phase. Second is that prioritize above your distraction. Prioritize Krishna above your distraction. In this way, at least this one mistake which Ajamila did, if we come upon such kind of thing in future, or it has already happened, we can rectify it. Okay, this is the first learning point from the first section. Now we will move on to his second phase of his life. So what happens next? So now he's under the spell of his Maya, he's under the spell of his prostitute wife, and he's doing all kind of activities. So all kind of sinful activities, and his life goes on, passes. But then there is one thing which is which is good, which happened something good with him. That is, he named his 10th child, he's the youngest child, as Narayana. And he was 90 years old actually, and the child, think the child, he was 90 years old and he had a very small child, maybe a toddler, because in Bhagavatam it is said that he was not able to speak properly, maybe appa amma, very very broken language, maybe the age of my daughter's age, like 11 months or something. So very small, maybe toddler, he was a very toddler. So think about the lustiness of Ajamila. So at that age, when he's 90 years old, someone should be concentrating on Krishna, but then he was enjoying and he was begetting children. So that lusty he was. But then he named his child as as Narayana. And what he used to do, whenever he used to drink something, whenever he used to chew something, eat something, he used to call out the name Narayana. So Narayana, come here, Narayana, eat this, Narayana, do this, and all those things he used to do. So all the time he used to call his son, the younger son, and was very, very attached to this son, Narayana. So one day he was in his deathbed and his child Narayana was also beside him, but he was playing. He was in his deathbed and he was completely weak. And at that time, he sees three furious Yamadutas. They come. They were totally, like they were copper. Their hairs were like copperly, and uh, color of the copper, and they had big teeth, and they had sword in his hand. They had a rope in his hand, and he was thinking that, oh, now this Yamaduta is coming to me, to, I think he my last moment, and I think they are coming to take me away. He was so much in fear. He was very fearful of those Yamadutas. Actually, we do not have any experience of Yamadutas. All those what we see is in the TV. We might have seen, at least in some serials. In olden days, some serials used to come, some religious serials which used to come, which shows the Yamadutas. Or in Bhagavatam, now we have Srimad Bhagavatam in our home, we see that picture of the Yamaduta is there, that how furious they look. But then we do not have the direct experience of Yamadutas. But then, in this age also, there is a true story which His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj, he narrates that actually there was one family in which the wife and the daughter, like, their family, the lady and her daughter, they were devotees. But then this husband who was there, the lady's husband, he was not a devotee. He was not practicing Krishna consciousness. In fact, he never used to appreciate devotees at all. So what happened one fine day is that he was also about to die. He got a heart attack, it seems. And at that time, he saw this Yamadutas. And since he was associated with his daughter and his wife, and they were chanting Hare Krishna, so he chanted, Hare Krishna. And then he saw that those Yamadutas, they disappeared. And at the time, he realized that, okay, this whatever we see in the scriptures, it is actually truth. And then he said that, don't take me, I will chant Hare Krishna. And then Yamadutas immediately ran off. And then, he started practicing Krishna consciousness. So my Guru Maharaj, what he tells is that, for this particular incident, he tells that, don't wait for the Yamadutas to actually remind you to chant. Please chant every single day, so that at the last moment you are inspired to chant. You should not see this Yamadutas and chant. Who knows, by seeing Yamadutas again, you will feel heart attack and you will die. Right? So Guru Maharaj tells this thing to us. So now this Ajamila, he was in his death, he was fearful that, okay, and they had actually taken the rope. They had tied the rope in the neck, the subtle body of Ajamila, and they were about to take. But at the time, in fear, he started thinking, because he was so attached to his younger son. He started screaming the name, like he said the name with tears in his eyes. It is written in Bhagavatam, like he had tearful eyes, and he chanted the name of Narayana. He called out the name of his son, Narayana. And immediately the Vishnu Dutas came. There were 4 Vishnu Dutas who came. They were very effulgent. They were looking like completely like Supreme Personality of the Godhead. They were looking like that. They had the appearance like that. They had Shankha Chakra Gada Padma, that is a conch shell, the disc, and the Shankha Chakra Gada means they had this club, and they had this lotus flower in their hands, and like that, with such beautiful looking, this 4 Vishnu Dutas, they appeared over there, and they said that, don't fear. They said to Ajamila, and they appeared over there, and that's how they stopped the Yamadutas from taking Ajamila. Okay, so let's give a pause over here to this section again. So I was telling the section 2, which I'm going to speak, was about the devotees come for rescue, right? So here, who came for the rescue of Ajamila, though he was calling out for his son, but then his toddler son, did he come for the rescue? Did he tell that, okay, father, don't fear, they will not be able to take you, I will protect you? No, right? So this is the, so this is just, I'm not sure how many of you have, how many of us have actually been been in that state wherein we are experiencing death. I think none of us, and maybe few of us, maybe if you have survived an accident, or maybe you have seen someone going to uh, death, but death is so painful actually. It's written in the Shastra that it is equivalent to 10,000 scorpions biting at the same time. I remember recently I was in my hometown and I got this indigestion and I started vomiting like anything. Anything what I give, I was just vomiting. Anything, even water also, if I was taking, I was just vomiting. It was so painful for me. And what happened, I went to a local, why I'm telling you these stories, that I'm just giving you the glimpse of what realization I had. um, so when I went to a local medical, it's where the place where I stay, it's an interior area of Orissa. So there we do not have such medical facilities. Okay. So when I went there, so they gave me some injections, some saline they gave. And after giving one saline, I was feeling better. But the second saline which they gave, I started getting pain in my hand because they couldn't find the vein in my hand, and somehow there was some problem. The way they had perforated the vein inside, they had put that injection in my hand. So when the second saline they gave, I started feeling so much of pain that I couldn't bear it. And I said them, please remove it. Once they removed it, I started shivering like anything. And I got fever, which was not there. And then I started getting fever and I started collapsing because my BP had gone down. I mean to say that my I was my head was rotating like anything, like I was not in proper posture. I like totally I broke down, like I was totally broke down. So then they took immediately to me to another hospital. And there also the time which I, so that time period which I which I had, at that time period, I'm honestly speaking, I was so weak, my health was so bad that the only thing I was looking, I was thinking of this, that how can I breathe, because I was breathless, I was unable to breathe properly. So my condition, my health condition was so bad. And that made me realize of one particular fact. If for such an indigestion, if my body is such that I'm not able to remember Krishna, I'm just remembering that how can I breathe, how can I uh, somehow my husband was there, I said my husband to chant so that I can just hear it and I can get some confidence. But then for me to chant, I was not able to chant. I was thinking that how can I breathe, because I was breathless. So think about the time for this such a small indigestion, my health was like that. Think actually when the death is there, it's very 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 difficult. So that's why in Shastra it is said that it's very very difficult that someone can remember, it's very difficult actually to remember Krishna during the death time. So that's why there is one devotee who tells, not able to remember, recollect his name now at this point of time, but then he tells that, oh Krishna, please give me the strength so that I can chant your holy names very nicely. I can glorify you with thousands of mouth. Give me thousands of ears so that I can hear your all your glorification, because I don't know if in the death time I can remember you. I do not have that confidence. So please give me all, let me glorify you incessantly so that at this point wherein I have good strength, I have everything with me, I have this stamina with me to glorify you, to do your devotional service. And now I see that all of you are, now I see that 16 of us are here. We have this youth body with us. Most, this is ISKCON Youth Services. We are all youths and we have this stamina, this energy with us to do service for the Lord. Will we get the same body again? How many of you think that yes, we can get it? Please write it down in the chat box. How many of you are still the children, like the babies, the toddlers? We are continuously changing our body. We do not have the same body again, right? This is the chance for us. This is the opportunity for us to serve the Lord, wherein we are having such nice stamina, we're having good body. So, how many of us are doing our devotional service very, very seriously? Wherein we have all the resources with us, we have time. Many of you may not have married, right? And I'm just telling you, after marriage and after having a child specifically, I'm a mother, so I'm telling you that my whole day, if I see that, it just goes off like, starts with just feeding, cleaning the baby, and then feeding her, then cleaning her, making her sleep. The entire schedule, you just have to give so much of time and energy to a baby. So the time for doing devotional service is very less. And now, if you have time with you, please, my dear devotees, do not waste your time. So, in this section, this is one learning that we are getting. Don't waste your time thinking about that, thinking about all those material activities which we are doing. Just don't give all your energy to all that material activities, doing the duties of your human body. Do some duties for your soul. Choose wisely. Your time is something which is very, very important. Time and the body, use this body. Don't think that I don't have to take care of this body, I'm not this body. Yes, take care of this body and use this body for the service of the Lord. Now we have enough energy and time. We don't know what will happen after few days. What runs me through do for doing my services is that yes, if I have time, let me do it. Let me engage some way, some small things we can do for the service of the, not necessarily that you have to do some big something like that. Just do small things. Offer some prashadam to us, offer some bhoga to Krishna. Chant your rounds qualitatively, like, we know quantity, we are doing 16 rounds, but then you do give some quality. If you're not doing 16 rounds, it's a high time, do 16 rounds. Prabhupada says that if you're not doing 16 rounds, you're not even a human being. I'm just telling you, I don't want to, it's a Prabhupada is saying, so please do not feel anything. Okay, so do your rounds properly. Do some service. If you're associated with any mentor, if you know any devotee who is associated, reach out to them. Mataji, how can I do some service? Do some service you do for Krishna. Uh, uh, if you're not from Chennai, somewhere else, you are associated with some other, some other location. If you're there and if some ISKCON is there, you can go on Sundays or somewhere and do some service there in the temple, something. Or if you have deities, or if you have a picture of Krishna in your home, do some arati to the Lord. We have this Guru Puja, we have so many other things, so many services. Maybe your mentor can guide you on what all services you can do. The best service that you can do among everything is to chant your the holy names. The best service that you can do. 90% of your back to Godhead ticket depends upon how much attentively or how much nicely you are chanting the holy names of the Lord, right? That's very, very important. So choose wisely. Are you choosing Maya like Ajamila, or are you choosing Krishna by chanting the holy names? Are you choosing Netflix, or are you choosing, the vedabase.io.com, and you're going and reading some books over there online, right? Are you choosing to just hang out with your friends and spend the entire weekend, or are you choosing to hang out with some devotees and go for Nagar Sankirtan? Choice is yours. So choose wisely, right? This is the time you are in a youth body. Don't waste your time. You will not get it again. The second chance is not given like how it is given to Ajamila. It doesn't come in everyone's life. He was chosen. His past is there, which maybe we will discuss. He was a great devotee in his past, in his previous life. That's how he got this opportunity again, the second chance he got. But then we may or may not get it. Okay, so this one we took, and take association of the devotees. So devotees are like Prabhupada writes in the purport of the sixth canto, it is there of Srimad Bhagavatam. If you read, it's very beautiful purports Prabhupada has given for this entire chapter. There are two chapters of narrating the story of Ajamila, and Prabhupada writes over there a very interesting line, which I would like to tell. Devotees are like Vishnu Dutas. Devotees are like Vishnu Dutas, okay, who bring the conditioned soul from that sinful life to that of devotional life. They bring them, right? So we should take the association of the devotees who are like Vishnu Dutas for us, who are, you should go. How do we take association of the devotees? In Nectar of Instruction, it is written over there. We give some uh, when we associate with a devotee, we give prasadam to them. We eat prasadam, like it is an exchange of prasadam, it's an exchange of gifts we do. Also, we exchange our hearts. Like when we speak to a devotee, we speak what's going on in our heart, like confidentially, sharing our heart confidentially with a devotee. That is speaking our heart to a devotee. Then what will happen? A devotee can guide you that where you are in your spiritual life, and they will give you nice instructions, in they will give you their association in which you can remember Krishna always. Because the entire principle of devotional life is that two things, that is, one is surrender to Krishna, and second is that always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So as devotees, what they do by their association, they make you always remember of Krishna, even though there are so many things written in the books or somewhere. But then we need devotees who can tell us that how to apply those devotional principles in our life. With, I know few people who they do not take the privilege of devotee association, though devotees would be continuously pinging them and telling them that, that if anything is there, if we can help you out. But then still devotees lag behind, they do not share their heart. So what happens in that case? The devotional progress which is there, it is stopped. There is, you have to open to some one person, at least one devotee you should share your heart to, who can guide you through your devotional life, who can tell you what to do in your spiritual life, how do you progress in your spiritual life. That person would guide you to have one have one confidential devotee with you, whom you are comfortable in sharing your heart to, who can help you out with your devotional life. Okay, so this is the learning from the second section. So we had one learning, that is choose wisely. Second is that associate with devotees. Okay, fine. Now let's come to the third section. Okay, so the third section which is there is that ultimate shelter of the holy name. So let's start Ajamila's stories again. What happens in Ajamila's life again? So now Ajamila was fearful, and he sees this Vishnu Dutas, and this Vishnu Dutas, this devotees, Vishnu Dutas. So Krishna himself, he had sent those Vishnu Dutas. Krishna, he had sent because he, since he had called Narayana. So Krishna, see, for us, if anyone calls, if for example, any other person's name is also Deepa in a crowd, uh, I will see that intention of that person. If they calls, okay, Dipapriya, okay, maybe I will see that person, and I will see if that person is looking at me or not while calling. If he's not looking at me, then I will say, okay, he's not calling me, so just leave it. He's calling to some other person, maybe like that. Or even if you call in some far place, now Ajamila is in like in this in this planet, and Krishna is in Narayana. Krishna, he is in the Vaikuntha, right? Now here, if you are in your home now, for example, even if we are in a Zoom meeting, if you're calling my name, still I'll not be able to know if you're calling my name, because all of you are muted and I don't even know if you're calling your name, or I can't even see. But here, Krishna, even though Ajamila did not call intentionally, still he is thinking that, okay, this person is calling my name, so let me go to his rescue. How magnanimous is the heart of the Supreme Lord. Even though a person doesn't call intentionally, just calls, just utters the name of his son, still Krishna is coming and, you know, and protecting that person, even though that person is not a devotee. For to speak of a devotee, if why do we doubt the holy names? This is the potency of the holy name. This is the potency of the holy name, that which we will tell, for which the Vishnu Dutas they tell. We will discuss a little further. So since he called in his last time, Vishnudutas came and they said to the Yamadutas that you cannot take the soul of the Ajamila with you. And then this Yamadutas were very bewildered, and they said that, then Vishnudutas said that, what is the argument that you are giving? How can you take the Ajamila with you? How can you take Ajamila with you? Tell. And then this Yamadutas, they say that the this actually Vishnu Dutas, they actually ask a specific question. They ask that, can I take no, they ask this, how can you take, and what is the logic that you are giving to take this Ajamila with you, and what makes you take Ajamila, like whether like what are all the reasons? Please tell us the reason, and who is subjected to go to the jurisdiction of this Yamadutas, who is subjected to go to Yamaloka. You tell us. Then the Vishnu Dutas, they ask to the Yamadutas, and then the Yamadutas tell that all the living entities who are engaged in doing this fruitative activities, the material activities, all those people are subjected to Yamaloka. That means all are subjected to the jurisdiction of the jurisdiction of the Yamraj, right? So this is what I'm telling in short. I'm giving you the, uh, I can tell you that so many slokas were there, but I'm just giving you a summary of what the Yamaduta said. There are so many shlokas. If you in your free leisure time, you can go ahead and you can read that particular, all those verses, right? So when Vishnu Dutas, they heard this, so the next chapter it start with what Vishnu Dutas said. So Vishnu Dutas said that to the Yamadutas that you are taking a sinless person with you. You are the protector of the dharma, but what you are doing is that you are doing adharma by taking Ajamila with you. Now, my dear devotees, you all might be thinking, and then for me also, I was then this Yamadutas also, they got confused, that how come, what mistake have we done? His entire life is sinful. Actually, they told the entire history of Ajamila. See what all he did. He fell in illusion, and he fell in the trap of a prostitute. He removed his parents from his home, who were very helpless, were very old. He removed his pious wife from his home, who was also very pious. He did all those sinful activities. He killed people, he did murder, and he did all those sinful things. So he is subjected to go to the Yamaloka. But then Vishnu Dutas, they are telling that no, he is completely sinless. So what all did Vishnu Dutas, what all did he Vishnu Dutas said him? So Vishnu, I'm just reading out few of the verses from that particular chapter. So that the Vishnu Dutas said that, so why Ajamila was sinless because even previously, while eating and at other times, the Ajamila would call his son, saying, "My dear Narayana, please come here." Although calling the name of his son, he nevertheless uttered the four syllables Na Ra Ya Na. Simply by chanting the name of Narayana in this way, he sufficiently atoned for the sinful reactions of millions of life. So even though someone knowingly or unknowingly is chanting the holy names of the Lord, that person is removing all the sins from millions of life. What to speak of this life? So there is one thing which Ajamila did, which is very important for us. He chanted offenselessly. So how many of you know the 10 offenses of the holy names? Please raise your hand. Please raise your. I just want to know. We are running short of time. I thought of telling you all those 10 offenses, but then I'm just thinking if you know already, then I'll skip it off. Otherwise, I will. Okay, Anuta Mataji knows it. Vidya, others. Okay. So if you do not know, it's very, very important for us to know that what are the 10 offenses of the holy names. Okay, so the first is just to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for the propagation of the holy names. Second is that to think the names of the Krishna or names of the Vishnu to be equal or independent of the names of the demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. And third is that to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. Fourth is to blaspheme the Vedic scriptures, and to not to and to think that the script they are like mythology. I'm just paraphrasing it. Okay. And the fourth, I think the fourth is to think that the chanting of the holy names is an imagination, and to um, to do the sinful activities on the next offense is to do sinful activities on the basis of the chanting of the holy names. To think that the chanting of the holy names is an auspicious activity, is an auspicious activity, or the fruitative activities, like if we chant the holy names we get some fruitative result out of, like karma kanda, like doing some activity and expecting some result from it. And then to preaching this chanting of these holy names to a faithless person. And then the last one is that, and the last one is that to have material attachment even after even after hearing so many instructions on that, and to not to chant attentively the holy names. So these are the 10. I did not name it so 1 2 3 4 5, but then I just quickly I said you the 10 offenses to the holy names. So one of the offenses is that to commit sinful activities on the on the basis of chanting of the holy names. Like someone is thinking that I can chant the holy names, and whatever the sins I have done, I can atone for all the sins by just chanting the holy name. Consciously, if someone does this, then that is an offense to an holy name. Okay. So now Ajamila, when he was chanting this Narayana, he was not chanting this Narayana so that he can do some more sins. He was not doing that, right? He was doing it unknowingly. He was doing it just to chant he was just chanting the names of his son, like he was thinking of calling his son. So what he did is that he did offenseless chanting, that is namabhas. He did namabhas, but then he did not do nama aparad. So what I spoke is that all the 10 aparads that we do, the offenses that we do to the holy names. So he chanted the holy names, and that is why he was becoming pure, and that is why he was he was his sins were all getting he was getting removed of all his sins. So Prabhupada gives these two examples. um, Actually, I will tell you now the four things Prabhupada tells. Like he gives an example of a serpent. Okay. Now serpent, he wants to share, the serpent wants to always bite, right? They want to always spread the poison through the teeth. But then when we chant the holy names, it's like a serpent's teeth has been removed. Though they bite, at the time the poison does not get transmitted. Okay, so the when we chant the holy names, our condition is like that. Okay, we do not, we uh, our like, even though we do not understand, but then our, since it goes off, like, but then someone may argue that even though I am chanting, but still I have that inclination to do something wrong. So what Prabhupada writes in his purport is that when we keep chanting, even though we keep chanting, and even though we are chanting offensively, or we are not chanting in a concentratively, we are not doing chanting in a very qualitatively way. So what happens over the time of the period, the result of the chanting of the holy names, it fructifies a little later, like that of a fig tree. Though the tree is there, the fruits are there, but then the if you see, observe the fig tree, there will be small small balls, but it takes so much of time to fructify those fig trees. Or if you see a tree of a mango, even though it is very small, right, it takes time for the mango. It is first, there is an analogy which devotees give, like the mango, when it is very very small, it is bitter in taste, right? Slowly, when it becomes big, it becomes sour in taste. And slowly, when it becomes uh, little more bigger, when it completely ripens, it is very sweet in taste, right? So, yes, so slow, when we are chanting these holy names, our condition also, it improves like that of a mango. First, we are like a bitter, wherein there is no reaction, right? Actually the effects of the holy name we cannot understand, but slowly, in the initial, we are all in the initial stage of our chanting. We are chanting sometimes very dedicatedly, but sometimes we are chanting offensively also. So what happens, slowly by chanting, what happens, we become like a sour mango. And then slowly, when we chant, when we start chanting purely, we become like that sweet ripened mango, right? So it is, if we are chanting and if we see that we are not having any effect, it doesn't mean that holy name has any problem. We have accumulated so much of sins, we are doing such sinful activities, we are doing such aparat from time immemorial, that it is taking time for us, that to clear our heart, to do the holy names purely, it's taking time. So it doesn't mean that will not happen, it will happen, but just that it's a matter of time. Like Prabhupada says that this, no, in the purport, Sukhdev Goswami, he gives two examples, like that of the fire. Fire, how it can, like, it is very easy for the fire to fire a dry grass, right? Fire can catch dry grass in it. The dry grass can burn very soon compared to that of the wet grass, right? So fire catches immediately in the dry grass, even because that is what the nature of the fire is, right? But when it is a wet grass, it takes some time. The second example, so this is how the holy names is. So we are like, we are still in preparation, so it doesn't mean that the fire of holy names will not act on us. We are like that wet grass, right? We have to become like the dry grass, and then immediately the fire can catch on it. So this chanting process, it takes some time, but then it has effect. Then the second example for Sukhdev Goswami gives is that, like that of a medicine, even though you you are taking the medicine, so you deny it or you approve it, okay, the effect of the medicine will be there on the body, on your body, right? Similarly, if you chant the holy names, the effect is there, some or other how it is there, but then it's a matter of time that when it will fructify and you can see the result. So one day the result of whatever you are chanting, it will fructify and you can see the result. How in Ajamila's case, he was chanting continuously Narayana, Narayana. He was calling out his son's name, but then he was removing all his sins in that way. And when the deathbed also he was there, he chanted this name of Narayana, and that's how he got purified. And then it was the mercy of the Lord that he sent his devotees, he sent the Vishnu Dutas to his rescue, so that he remembers that thing. He remembers that okay, he was a devotee of the Lord, but then because of illusion he did all those mistakes. And now and now he can now he came to his senses. So now after this incident, when Vishnu Dutas gave so many examples, actually I don't have time, we are running short. We have breezed the time. Otherwise I thought of taking you all through all those slokas also, but then we do not have such so much of time. But I said you the summary of what I read from those slokas. Okay. So after Vishnu Dutas, they explained the glory of the holy names. The Yamadutas, they went off. And then Ajamila, he realized that what mistake he had done. But by the time he realized, the Vishnu Dutas, they left actually. So he understood that what mistake he has done. And then he went to Haridwar to atone for his whatever he had done. And he started chanting the holy names. And finally, at the end of the life, he went back to he went back home, back to Godhead. So from this section of his life we understand that ultimately we have one shelter, that is the holy names of the Lord, which can give us protection at our last moment. Prabhupada writes in his purport that if at all, even though we are not able to chant in our last moment during the deathbed, we are not able to chant the holy names, but our whole life we chanted the holy names very nicely, still Krishna will accept us, even though we are not able to chant the holy names during our last moment. So this is our second chance. That means this life which we have got by the mercy of the devotees, this is our second chance. What we were previously before coming to Krishna consciousness, that was like the life which we were living, that like that of the Ajamila. Now by the mercy of the devotees we know that what is the value of this holy names. And now this is our call. Either we be like Ajamila, now at least, like we understand, okay, now I have to chant the holy names very very attentively. I have to do some devotional service for Krishna and try to go back home, back to Godhead by this, in this life itself. Otherwise, again, we will become like that caterpillar who uses its own saliva to entangle himself and he gets trapped in that. Otherwise, we will become like that. We will get trapped in this world and we will not be able to go back home, back to Godhead. Right? So the call is yours. So the second chance is given to us by the by the mercy of the Lord. We have been given the association of the devotees. We have this holy names. Prabhupada writes, please read the purport if you have time for the sixth chapter, sixth canto of Bhagavatam, first and second chapter. Here Prabhupada writes in the purport that this is the secret of success. What is the secret of success in Krishna consciousness? These two things: chant your rounds, chant your 16 rounds, chant the holy names, and second thing that associate with devotees, which will further help you in chanting the holy names. Right? So please do these two things, and then you will become Krishna conscious by the end of your life, and you will go back home, back to Godhead. So thank you so much for listening to me and for giving me this opportunity to speak. Hare Krishna. If any questions are there, I would like to take. If not, we can end up. Hare Krishna. So you can either raise your hand or write it down in the chat box of what all questions you have. Okay. Thank you, Smriti. Thank you, Pratibha. Okay.
Machine,
So,
you will probably just give a minute or so to see if there are any questions
hmm,
in case you are
yeah,
having,
sure.
or you can raise your hands in case you would like to ask directly. Uh,
You are in a hospital, Mataji.
hmm?
Oh, I hope everything is good. Vijay Lakshmi Mataji, you are in a hospital. Is I hope everything is good. And my prayers, if anything is wrong, let everything be good in your life. Like if you have any complications with your health, let you recover soon. Okay, so since no one is asking questions, I have a quick question. So how many of you are chanting 16 rounds? You can raise your hands. Okay. Vidya, Lalita, Anutama. Okay. Okay, great. And how many of you are chanting maybe 12 rounds? Aksha Basu. Okay. How many of you are chanting? Maybe the 16 rounds, whoever has said, can lower your hand. At least 12 rounds. 12 rounds. Okay. Smriti is chanting 10 rounds. That's awesome. That's good. Okay. Okay, very nice. I hope every one of you are chanting. But after this class is over, if one thing, maybe I said so many takeaways from this session, right? At least one thing, if you are applying, then it would be the success of the session would be there. And also, if you're chanting less than 16, if you feel inspired to chant one round extra or two rounds extra, then also it's very good. Maybe you can think of increasing your rounds. So it's like next Ekadashi, you can increase your round. That also you can do. So that would be very nice. Okay, we can do 4 4 4 8. Yeah. 45, if I can't do it today being in hospital, uh, what I do basically when I am in such situation wherein I am in hospital, I always keep with me a clicker. I keep with me a clicker. So even though I am lying down on the bed, I still chant my rounds holding a clicker. I chant my rounds because I remember when I was, I gave birth to the baby recent, like 11 months back. And I was in 2 days for 2 days I was in hospital. And I, before my surgery, I completed 16 rounds. But then after post my surgery, when I was lying down on the bed, I was still doing the rounds using my clicker. I think many of us also do that. So you can still do it having a clicker with you, or you have an app in your phone that you can have, that is chanting monitor. If you don't have a clicker, so you can still chant today. Yeah, like if it is possible, if your state is like that. Otherwise, if today, if you have some pending rounds, for example 8 rounds you could chant, 8 you couldn't chant, so the remaining balance what is there, you chant the next day. But then I personally, I do not encourage devotees, it's my personal perspective, I do not encourage devotees to do it on a daily basis, that they have pending rounds, they carry forward to the next day. Try to finish your round uh, daily. But then if such situations are there, for example health issues, you are having such, you're not able to chant today completely, you broke down, it's okay. Next day you do your carry forward rounds, you complete your rounds. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. So
Okay.
I
Yeah.
suppose there aren't any other questions. Nobody has raised their hand or anything. Okay. So I suppose uh, people understood your session well. They got the message, the substance. So thank you very much, Mataji. That was a wonderful session. That was quite heartfelt. I also had a lot of takeaways in terms of how it is essential to chant. And when we are chanting, at least first we take it to 16 rounds gradually if we are not doing that. And once we reach that platform of 16 rounds, how essential it is to, chant with the quality, you know, and how it's very hope giving that by the end of this birth, even if at the time of birth, if out of, any emergency or inevitable circumstances, if we are not able to remember the Lord still considers, how we have been chanting when we were, in a good state, in a good health. So I think you invited us all to, now that we are in a healthy state with good youth and vigor, uh, I think we understood that seriousness of taking use of this opportunity to chant to the best of our capacity, to chant Shuddhanam. So thank you very much, Mataji. That was a very deep message, and you nailed it. So thank you very
Yeah.
much
So
for.
I think one question is there, Anuttama, by Vidya
Okay, okay.
Pandian. I'll just take up this question.
Sure,
She's
sure, sure.
asking, like Hare Krishna Mataji, how to stop contemplating something which does not exist or going to happen. Because of that, I am choosing those dwelling with thoughts over Krishna. Okay, so Bhakti Brihad Bhagavatam Swami Maharaj, he had recently visited Chennai, and he said something which I have started implementing on my life. I think me and my husband. So do not create a problem which doesn't exist. Do not think of what is going to be in future. No one has seen the future. Live in present. Do the things which is affecting your present. Don't contemplate on the problem which doesn't exist. Don't make small things big. This contemplation happens basically, which I see is that when we start making small things as a big thing, big issue, makes doesn't don't make small things very big. Don't give. There is a quote which I read from a devotee long back. If you if you do not care for a problem after 5 years, there is, for example, there is a problem in your life, and after 5 years it doesn't matter. After 5 years, just think, will this problem exist after 5 years? If it doesn't, then no need for us to give our entire day, entire life, and so much of our time to that particular problem. If it's just a matter of some 2 3 minutes, something went wrong, so just forgive, forget. Devotee's principle is to forgive and forget. Many things happen when we do not forgive or we do not forget things. So this is something, I don't know what exactly you might be contemplating on. Talking to a devotee helps. Recently I too had such a thing, and then I spoke to a devotee, and then he suggested me, we cannot take decisions on based on down the line 3 years what will happen. I don't know what will be the future. And thinking about that, I'm in anxiety now. It doesn't make any sense. Right? So don't create a problem which doesn't exist, and don't think about a problem which may not be there in the future also. We don't know what's going to happen in future. This is a practical suggestion which I can give you, Vidya. Hope it answers your question. Lalita is writing that I am often making something complicated because of my fear or insecurity. How can I reduce it? Fear is um, nothing but the forgetfulness of Krishna, right? If you're making something complicated, we have to see that what things you are making complicated. Fear and insecurity arises when there is a lack of confidence. When see, I recently heard from a devotee. He's telling that fear is nothing but the gap between the acceptance of Krishna's plan. If you're not accepting Krishna's plan, that is where the fear arises. There is, we have our own plans, Krishna has our own plans for us, right? We might be thinking that we should crack this particular exam. If I get through this exam, then that's it, my life will be settled. But then Krishna might be having some other plan of for us. He may sanction it or he may not sanction it. My desire is there, but then the sanction to my desire is there in Krishna's hand. So believe in Krishna. Whatever Krishna will do in your life, you just have to accept it. You have control on one thing, that is doing your, putting your efforts. But then sanctioning is there in Krishna's hand. The only fear and insecurity arise when we can't accept maybe Krishna's plan, right? So whatever it is, just accept it. So there is where you have to, during chanting, if these things are arising, what you have to do is that, how I recently attended Sukirti Mataji's session on chanting of the holiness, which she gave on Hare Krishna TV. That was in Hindi. But she said a very interesting point. If those things are coming to my mind, stop your mind. Say no. Say no. I don't want to think at that moment, because I'm doing an important service, my personal service to Radha and Krishna. I'm chanting the holy names. So let me try to concentrate on that, right? So that's how you can have a say no. Say, try to say no to your mind if this kind of insecurity comes during chanting, and if the whole day after chanting also, if it's still continuing, then you speak to your devotee who can help you. And I don't know if it answers your question. Hope it helps. Is it okay, Lalita? Yeah, okay.
Okay. So I hope you have received your answers. And if I may add one thing to what you said, Mataji,
Yeah, yeah,
Anupama.
sure, Anuttama. Sure,
Sure, sure.
Anuttama, please.
Thank you, thank you. Uh, yeah, so if it is quite difficult for you to, manage this fear or insecurity, which is quite valid, we all have some insecurity. Some of us are able to put it aside and focus on our day-to-day activities, and for some, it can be debilitating. It gets in the way of whatever we do, and that includes bhakti. It can get in the way of our devotional service also. So it is like, let's say I have a toothache, or let's say I have a cavity. Now, I may say that I would like to continue practicing bhakti with this cavity on, but then, that may not really, it will continue being there, so what do you do at that case? You go to a dentist, and have that cavity removed. So someone who's specialized in dealing with that. So at times when you feel that it's getting very difficult to handle fear, insecurities, anxiety, grief, sadness, you can go to a mental health professional, seek help. Sometimes that may also help. So mental health professionals do have some training in helping you deal with your thinking and emotions. So I think that's another option you can consider. That's kind of like supplementary. So it's not like you give up on your bhakti, you continue practicing devotional service. But if despite doing that you're still facing some challenges, then you can take this help also.
Very valid, Anuttama. If we are having such, wherein we are stuck, sometimes we get stuck if our, with our fear and anxiety, and wherein such a situation comes wherein you feel like you are totally collapsed with the mental issues, please seek you know a professional help. Actually, like, it's not only, I'm we are just telling you, it is not only for Lalita. We are not telling anyone that you may
It's
be
common.
having, but then it's common wherein you can take some professional help. Yeah.
Well, what's important is you do what it takes to make your bhakti sustainable.
Correct.
If seeking mental help helps you sustain in your bhakti, then you can go for it. There is nothing wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mataji. That was a wonderful session. And thank you all for asking those questions. We could do some churning, some brainstorming, and some reflection. And we got to hear some, um, certain points from certain insights from Deepa Mataji also. So thank you very much, Mataji, for quoting so many devotees, sharing the insights of those other devotees also. I'm sure it would help all of us. So thank you very much for taking your time out and giving sessions. I know it takes time to prepare for all the sessions. So this was a very beautiful session. Thank you very much, Deepa
Thank
Mataji.
you.
And
Thank you so much.
thank you all devotees for joining today's session. You are the source of our motivation. With you constantly attending these sessions are running. Without you, we won't be able to have these sessions. So thank you very much for joining us today. Hoping to see you next Saturday. So take care till then. Stay safe. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.